Every power system has a problem. People notice when they're being crushed. You can rule by fear alone, but it usually breeds revolt. The British Empire figured out soft power. It allowed some critics to speak out loudly, even furiously, but only in ways that never threatened the foundation. This is called the licensed critic. Their role is to absorb public anger and turn it into novels and plays. Culture that feels organic and radical, but it never dismantles the machine. The payoff for the state is twofold. Britain looks like the land of the free. They can say, look, even our harshest critics get celebrated. The second advantage is that people learn to recognize injustice only in soft, abstract, safe ways. You feel validated and heard that somebody is saying what you think, but they will never organize against the real levers of power. This tactic is centuries old. You can see it in the way Charles Dickens writes about poverty, but never capitalism, or how Rupert Kipling criticized the empire's burden while glorifying its civilizing mission. By the 20th century, the licensed critic was systemized. The core imperial structure of the British Empire was its wartime propaganda units, the Information Research Department, and the BBC. This is George Orwell. Real name Eric Arthur Blair. That is a BBC microphone. He was a licensed critic. He is sold to us as the man who spoke truth to power. Eric Blair was not born poor, and he did not discover power by accident. His father worked in the opium department of the Indian Civil Service in Bengal. His father managed Britain's narcotics monopoly and oversaw a genocide. It is the revenue that funded the opium wars that paid for his education. Richard Blair administered warehouses in Motihari, Bengal. His family lived on extraction revenue disguised as a civil servant salary. His first job was in the Imperial Police in Burma, where he spent 5 years learning information warfare. He studied surveillance systems, crowd control, and informant networks. This is operational training in colonial occupation. When he leaves there in 1927, there's no resignation letter. There's no paper trail to verify the story of his moral objections. The crisis of conscience story is added much later. The next few years of his life are documented as drifting between Paris and London. He writes his book Down and Out, but fails to mention that his entire time adrift, he maintains his familial safety nets. At best, this was poverty tourism, but really it's credential building. Every down and out experience that he has later becomes marketable, publishable material. And by 1941, he moves into the BBC. The BBC Eastern Service was the Ministry of Information's Cultural Warfare Division. It's programming that was aimed at colonised populations during the war. His job is to keep India loyal through cultural broadcasts. Each stage of his life embeds him deeper into the empire's machinery. From opium revenue to colonial policing to wartime propaganda. This is not a rebel's journey. This is institutional grooming. By 1945, Animal Farm is published. He had written it between 1943 and 1944, but publishers held off because Russia was helping them fight Germany. The timing of the publication of Animal Farm aligns exactly with British strategic needs, just as Stalin was being switched from ally to enemy. The Information Research Department, which is Britain's longest-running covert operation, immediately weaponizes Animal Farm. They secure translation rights in Chinese, French, Italian, Spanish, German, and the book comes out in August 1945, just after Hiroshima. And the CIA puts down £179,000 to turn the book into a movie. Orwell never promoted his own books. The state apparatus did that for him, because his messaging aligned perfectly with British and American strategic needs. Notice what both books do. Animal Farm turns Stalin into Napoleon the Pig, while 1984 gives us Big Brother as an abstract symbol. Both of these texts teach readers to recognize tyranny only in the abstract, making it impossible for you to identify these concepts in your lived experience. You expect tyranny to look like Napoleon the Pig or Big Brother to be as pervasive and advanced as it is in 1984 before you accept that we're already there, babe. That is the function of the licensed critic. It absorbs your dissent by providing safe targets. Think about what actually happens in these books. In 1984, Winston Smith learns the truth and then loses completely. In Animal Farm, the animals overthrow Jones, but then end up worse than before. The message here is not resist. The message is awareness is noble. Resistance is futile. These books condition readers to see oppression as universal human pattern, rather than specific institutional arrangements. Napoleon isn't Churchill. Big Brother isn't MI5. Room 101 isn't Whitehall. The texts universalized tyranny. He made it timeless and abstract. He never mentions the actual power structures that he was quite familiar with. They stay unnamed and untouched. Meanwhile, in 1949, he handed Celia Kirwan from the IRD a list of 86 writers he deemed as unsuitable propagandists. One of them he flags as Charlie Chaplin. This is active collaboration with the state's cultural filtering mechanism. These books don't threaten British institutions. They target Soviet systems while teaching Western populations that surveillance equals protection, and that it's a hopeless and futile endeavour to try and resist. Animal Farm in 1984 act as cultural inoculation. They're designed to teach you to look for an Orwellian aesthetic while keeping you totally blind to the operational surveillance already expanding around you. You can learn some vocabulary, Big Brother, doublethink, thought crime, but you never use those words on the local institutions. Today, audiences quote his work as a warning while accepting CCTV networks, data harvesting, emergency powers. You've become very good at spotting authoritarian systems over there in somebody else's regime, but you've no words to name it domestically. You've been trained to see your oppression as an inevitable force, rather than a specific set of systems that can be confronted. Orwell was never silenced. He was amplified precisely because his life and work made him useful. His critique never threatened financial networks, the intelligence apparatus, or extraction capitalism. In reality, his work provides moral cover to the state while conditioning populations to accept expanded control.